And I did, I'd get it when the day came home. Anyway, so the way they say things, in fact, if you just look at one word, if you just take a for instance of one word, and the way that word is phrased. What is one word that, what's your name, I'm sorry? Raul. What is one word you might use consistently, like I use for instance?
Poodle.
Raul Street. You're picking on the weirdest people in the world. Him and Raul.
Okay. Now she's the one with the poodle, right?
I hope so.
No, I'm not.
Not trained yet, but
Not trained yet.
You have to live here to understand all this.
It feels like I'm moving in here. Okay, so if you said, your poodle is loose.
come over
Go
here.
somewhere else. That's Robert.
Yeah, here's a
Sounds like the word poodle doesn't mean this.
You don't know what it means, so.
It can mean multi things.
So I'm gonna stay with poodle because it's kind of fun. Or if you said, move your poodle.
I get up and move my poodle.
Okay, think about the way they say those words. Okay, keep those words going. Keep them going the same way that they're going.
We do.
Okay. Now, what about now? Remember, that's only 37% and 7% for the words. So the other 56% of it is in the way they use their body. Now, back in the 50s and 60s, they used to say body language. Remember body language? I read a book called Body Language by some lady, and I don't remember what her name was. Body language is important, but body language, the way they define it in those books, is not always correct. For instance, if the way they define it in that book, you'd be just a little bit disgusted, and you'd be going, oh yeah, prove it to me, and so on, right? Okay, around there. That's not always true. That is not always the way it is. Some people just sit that way. Now, if I were sitting like you're sitting, okay, something like that.
Lying down.
You got too much of it on the chair.
I'll tell you something. This is a good position to watch TV. I love it. Now, when I'm in a learning situation, I don't sit that way. Now you do, because you're here. I can see it in your face. You're attentive and you're listening, and you're really getting into this. But you're sitting in a way that would be uncomfortable for me in a learning situation. It's a recreation position. Okay. Now I sit more like you when I'm in a learning situation.
Hey, don't move.
How do I sit?
That's her thinking.
The way I do.
Straight up. Oh.
He sits like.
Okay. Now what are some of the other things that you can match in their physical, in people's, the way their physiology works?
The way they stand,
The way they stand,
the way they move their hands.
the way they move their hands.
Hands in pockets or crossed or things
Margie
like that.
has her arms folded, and those books used to say that meant they were defiant or whatever. And a lot of times it's just because you're cold. I do that when I'm cold.
Yeah.
You know.
And I do that when I'm praying, and I'm not defiant when I'm praying, by golly.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I am. And I just never knew it. Okay, God. I'm not.
Uh-oh.
See?
I'm listening.
And so those words are not always
She does that when she was stuck.
You do that when you what?
I'm listening very hard. Oh, that's not why.
It's just comfortable. And that's okay. See, and those books aren't always right. What I'm not here to tell you how to read somebody's body language. I'm not here to tell you that one way is right and one way is wrong. I'm here to tell you that matching them will get you into their subconscious. Whether they're defiant or not is irrelevant. Whether they're hating life today because their dog just got run over, their poodle just got run over. I'm getting in trouble. Anyway, just because their poodle just got run over, they're feeling bad and they don't want to list their home today. That has nothing to do with the situation. What you want to do is you want to be like them. And so if you can be like them, then they're gonna like you a lot more. So what are some of the other things that we can match in the way they do things? Oh, before we go on with that, the difference again between matching and mirroring is doing the opposite. If you're sitting next to someone and you're sitting side by side with them, then you would match them. For instance, you would, if you wanted to really bond with her, or you with her, you would sit the same way she is. You would match the thing she's doing. Now, but if you're sitting across the room from someone, then you would mirror them. And the reason for that is because they're used to looking in a mirror at home. Okay, and so they want to see, subconsciously, they want to see somebody that is sitting like them. For instance, you're crossing this leg, well, she's crossing that leg. See, you're mirroring each other in your leg position. Okay, so what are some of the other things now that we can match?
Dress.
Dress. When I owned a franchise, I think I told you I used to own a couple of real estate franchises. I go to the corporate offices and everybody had power ties. This was a few years ago when bright red power ties were in, and everybody down there had them. I mean, the CEO, the chairman of the board, and everybody had these bright red power ties. You walk around, this guy's wearing a pinstripe suit with a bright red power tie. Well, I didn't wear one to list property in, but when I went down to the corporate office, I wore my pinstripe suit with my power tie. And the reason for that is because I wanted to get some special concessions out of these guys, and so I dressed the way they did. I wore my bright red power tie. Every time. My wife says, "Did you wear that yesterday?" "Yeah, I did, but I'm going to corporate again." Okay, match their clothes. Okay, some of the other things.
When you go to court, always wear red, white, and blue.
Judge isn't wearing red, white, and blue. Is
This is true.
it? I'm a patriotic person.
If, slang, like if they use slang,
If they use slang, yeah, yeah.
What
What
always
about,
something that's interesting. If you go in the client and you walk in the door and they say, "Well,
Howdy.
there's a lot of shit around here." That opens the door for obviously you aren't going to sit there and start, you know.
I'm not gonna sit there, period.
Well, you know, sorry for all, you know. I mean that.
Yeah.
That's one good way to tell. I mean, not that all of us are going to go around and match a client with the way they speak, but at least it will loosen up how you might speak. Not that you have to say shit, but maybe.
You can say that don't make no difference.
That's right. That make no difference.
Okay? But match those things. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a couple other things about their body. Eye contact. Okay. Now, how many of you know somebody that stares and never blinks? Never blinks? Seems like.
How about one
Seems
where
like it
one
doesn't.
eye goes in a different direction?
That's a tough one. That one's tough to catch.
Try to match it.
I have a friend. He's got a glass eye, and I'm not sure which one it is, but I know one of them's glass. And I'm never sure which one I'm supposed to look at when I'm looking at this guy. Okay.
That'll drive me crazy.
It will, yeah. But I know one of them is, and I never know whether he's really looking at me or looking at the wall over there, or the wall over there. You know, and you never know. Well, some people will stare at you, and we'll get into this more on personalities, on which ones stare at you. But because some will stare at you constantly, and they'll blink a little bit, but they won't look away at all. Okay. And others, I have a friend, and I'll tell you more about this guy in the next lecture. This guy, we'll be sitting at a restaurant, a very good friend of mine, and we'll sit at this restaurant and talk, and we've done this time after time and time, and theorize and speculate, and we're really well bonded. This guy hardly ever looks at me. Almost never looks at me. He's looking at that good-looking waitress walking by, or whatever, but he's hardly ever looking at me. I bet he couldn't even tell you what color my eyes are. Because he never looks at me. But every time he comes to town, he's a pilot. Every time he comes to town, we go to lunch or dinner or whatever. And we can sit for hours because he has nothing to do. You know, when he's not flying, he has nothing to do. But anyway, that's one of the things. Okay?
Yeah, about staring. I have found when I stare at people, they look away. They can't stay staring at me. Why?
Well, there are 1,000 different reasons, one for every person. One of them might simply be that they're not used to eye contact with people. Maybe they don't look at people.
Yeah, they
When
do
they're
everything,
talking
but
with
And it's just the opposite with me. It's very seldom that they don't stare back. I feel like the wider I open my eyes, the wider they do.
Okay, now wait a minute. Are you guys listening to this?
This is the way I almost have a true control, you know, when I can test this. and I'll do, things with my eyes, and they follow it. And it's
And your hands.
What do you
Now-
look at?
yeah.
Now, let me tell you what she's doing here. Let me tell you what she's doing here. This woman, what's your first name?
Marty.
Marty. She bonds with people easily. Now, how many of you remember President Kennedy? I'm old, I remember. Okay. JFK was known as one of the most charismatic people of this century, wasn't he? Ronald Reagan, how many of you liked President Reagan? You know, I don't care. Okay. Whether you liked him or not is irrelevant. The man bonded with people almost immediately. Whether you liked his politics or not is irrelevant. The man was good. Okay? What we're teaching you today are the way they did things. The way they did this. They were natural. These guys and many others throughout history were natural bonders. They were what we call charismatic. And what we're teaching you today is to be naturally charismatic. Even though you weren't born with it, I'm going to tell you another one. My father. Everybody in the world loved my dad. I mean, it didn't matter. You walk into a room and they bonded with it. When you're a teenager, that's pretty bad because you hate your dad when you're a teenager. And my kids hated me when they were teenagers. Anyway, and I couldn't understand it. And as I got older, I realized I got to be in high school, and my brother said, "Well, he has this charm, this Adam's charm." And I thought, okay, great. Okay, Adam's charm. So that's what it is. Because I guess his brothers are like that too, my uncles, and on and on and on. And one time I asked my brother, I said, we hadn't been talking about that. We were talking about a girl I wanted to date, and this is in high school. And I was kind of young, and I'm nervous and I want to ask her out, but what do I do? And my brother said, well, you've got it too, just turn on the Adam's charm. And I go, oh, great, okay. So I turned on the Adam's charm. I just walked up to her and I said, hi, I'm Ken, you want to go out with me? And she said, no, who are you kidding? You're disgusting. I thought I turned on the Adam's charm. What I had done was I just turned it right off. I'd done everything wrong. What I should have done was be more like her so she would have liked me. Instead of being just the opposite of her. Loud and boisterous and disgusting. Take off my patent leather shoes and my white belt,
Disgusting.
I didn't wear those.
Yeah, right.
Right. Anyway, what I needed to do is I needed to be more like her. And some of these things that we've discussed. Now I'm going to tell you a couple other things that are really more subconscious even than the things we've talked about. You talked about eye contact. What about blinking? We talked a little bit about blinking, but did you know that most people blink at a particular rate? What they'll do is, it doesn't matter what situation they're in, unless it's real dusty, real Santa Ana conditions or something, their blinking rate is almost the same day after day after day after day. And everybody's just a little bit different. And if you can match the way they blink, if you can blink when they blink, or right after, hey, sue me, but that's the way it works. Okay? Anyway, you blink after they blink subconsciously. Remember, this is not their conscious mind we're talking about. Their subconscious is saying this person is just like me. Now, another thing, eye dilation. How many of you know that you can control the dilation of your eye? You can. In fact, your subconscious controls everything you do in your body. From digesting food to metabolism to the heartbeat, everything. Your subconscious controls it. Not your conscious mind. Now I know some people who can consciously control their heartbeat. I know a girl who can stop her heart literally. And it's a good thing she can start it again. Okay, we'd be in real trouble. Okay, so it controls that. Well, what about your heartbeat? What about their heartbeat? Can you match their heartbeat?
With clients.
Probably not. Probably not. You might be able to. But think about the last time you were very intimate with somebody. Think about their heartbeat and your heartbeat. I hope we're all adults here. How close they were. Exactly the same. Okay. Matching their heartbeat. What about breathing? Matching their breathing. Can you match their breathing? Can you match your client's breathing? Of course you can. You do it all the time. It's kind of tough. You're sitting there at the end of the table and husband's here. And how do you know whether he's breathing fast or slow? You look at his chest,
That's right.
okay? What if it's his wife?
Better look somewhere else.
You better look at her husband. You better be looking at her husband. Looking at him in the eyes. Okay, keep that in mind. You're sitting there. Now women are easy to tell. If you're guys that are at a bar and you want to pick somebody up, or girls, you want to be friends with somebody new, women are easy to tell because their chests go up and down more than guys. But guys, sometimes you can't even tell. You almost have to defocus and look at it whether it's going in and out instead of up and down. Okay, girls, so you're lucky. You can look at guys' chests. It's okay. Okay, but guys, be careful. Be very careful. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to look around the room and I want you to see people that you are already sitting like, for instance. How about your legs? You two are both sitting alike on your legs. Back there in the back.
You went to Catholic school,
Okay?
put your leg up there, we're sitting exactly alike.
I'm sitting on
Oh my God.
Isn't it funny?
Yeah.
Isn't it
All three
funny?
of us knew her.
Look at these two guys. This is classic. I love this. These two guys both crossing their legs the same way.
Peacock, you know how he was laid
The only reason
back.
we're
I've been
saying
watching
that
his
way
chest
is
too.
if I wanted to hear him, I certainly couldn't do that.
No, that's right.
You're wearing a dress?
When half of it's a good idea. Okay, now that's something that you have to keep in mind, is that you don't want to do something that's unnatural. You want to bond with somebody, and they're-
Natural, but.
are you gonna do that?
No.
No, you're not. That would, that's, I mean, you could, but it's not a good idea. Do the things that are natural for you. I mean, if they're standing on their head in the corner, are you gonna stand? No, you're not, okay? If they're crossing their legs incorrectly, or if they're crossing their legs at all, and you would not normally cross your legs, don't cross your legs. Do something else. Now, I'm gonna tell you about a little experience I had. I had these two gals, and in Utah we don't sell businesses very often because it's a whole different thing. But I had this gal who wanted to sell her modeling agency, and another gal who wanted to buy it. And they were both almost spitting images, as they would say, of each other, except that, of course, their hair color was a little bit different. But they were both beautiful women. They were both models, and one wanted to sell, the other one wanted to buy, but they were having a hard time getting along with each other. And so they called me and they said, Kent, can you get us, put this together? Can you help us out? And so I called them into my conference room because I wanted them both on my turf. I wanted them there where I could do the negotiations and I could be the intermediary. And you know what? They sat on opposite sides of the table as soon as they walked in. And I didn't ask them to move because that's where they wanted to sit and I wanted them to be comfortable. And one of them was sitting with her legs crossed like this, right? And even kicking her leg. In fact, incidentally, my daughter can't hold her foot still. And so when I want to bond with my daughter, I have to start going like this real fast. And I can't even do it as well as she does. Okay. But anyway, these two gals were sitting, one was sitting like this, and her arms were on the table. She was sitting up real close. And the other one was sitting back, if I remember, her arms were folded, but her legs weren't crossed. And boy, they were just hating it. And they immediately started fighting about the details of this modeling agency. I'm going, gosh, what am I going to do here? How am I going to overcome this? And I had just taken a class on matching and marrying, and I had just bought the book, but I hadn't read it. And the first book on matching and marrying that I read. And I thought, well, you know, I could practice that, right? But how do I do this? I mean, they're both different, but I want to bond with both of them. And so what I did with the one was I crossed my legs, just like she had her legs crossed. And then what did I do? I folded my arms just like the other one did. So effectively what I did was I matched the one on the bottom half and matched the other on the top half of my body. And then I asked them both to actually just calm down and we'll work out the details. And as we worked out the details, I changed just a little bit my posture. And let me tell you what happens. This is what we call pacing and leading. When you pay somebody, that means you're doing what they're doing. And you continue doing that as long as it takes. And then when you're tired of doing what they're doing, then you change. And if you have bonded with them, then they will follow. That's the leading. And it happens subconsciously. They don't know it, because what's going to happen here now is pretty soon Vince is going to put his foot down. And then, what's your name?
Joe.
Joe's going to put his foot down. And Joe might really want his foot up there. But he, or one or the other, was going to lead the other one to do something. And this is all very subconscious. And I use this in hypnosis. I use this when I get a client who comes in and wants to do something, and I'm having a hard time with them. I have to bond with people. People have to like me and trust me just like they do you. And I do this, and it gets them to like me and trust me more. So I will pace them for a while, and then I will lead them, as they say, down the primrose path.
Is it the same thing as when someone yawns and somebody else follows?
Exact same thing. Exact same thing. I mean, you're not tired, but gosh, you're yawning. Yeah, it's the exact same thing. Okay? What I want each one of you to do for the next week, in fact, what I want you to do for the next, should we take a break? You guys want to take a break? Okay, what do you want? 5 minutes? Okay, let's take 5 minutes. But while you're taking your break, if you have to make a phone call, go ahead and make a phone call. But please, see somebody else in the office and match them. And I'm going to tell you another story before we take this break. I had a gal that was my wife wanted to be friends with, and she, because we go to church with them, and they are associated in this organization at church, but they were having a hard time, and the girl didn't like me, and she didn't like my wife, and so we sat down in a meeting, and we did this. And you know, after the meeting was over, after I matched her, my wife matched her, before it was over, half an hour later, we were best friends. And we hadn't talked about anything personal, about our families at all or anything. Okay? Think about that. Now go out, take your 5 minutes, and match somebody in the office that I don't want to hear about when you come back.
You copied me.
Oddball.
You got up.
I do. You followed me.
I can only imagine.
You can sit on it, you can kick it, you can smoke it.
Somebody's gonna have to help me out.
Close the door.
Oh, it's a close the door thing. I thought it might be. You're new here, right? Yeah. Maybe you want to hear the poodle story too.
Oh, no.
No, he's young enough that he can figure that out.
Where they get used
Young
to it.
enough, it does take young.
Where they get used to
I
it.
haven't heard that poodle thing either.
It has a lot of meanings.
Must be. I guess I wasn't here that
It
day.
originally started out as, I don't know.
You call me chancla.
True.
What does that mean?
I have,
Chancla means slippers.
Is that because you're slippery?
No. He just.
no, it loses complete translation from Spanish to English.
Yeah, it's just like a, I don't know how do you say cariño.
It's,
Oh well, it's just a word.
I'll think.
Poodle must have some sexual attributes.
Oh, definitely, yeah, it's like what a great food she has. But then it was, that was the original intention of it. And because of either the burlesque dancers or what have you and stuff like that, so then I started calling this one guy that.
A guy.
Yeah, it's like, hey, poodle head, because then he had hair like a poodle. So we just took poodle parts and started farming it out. So it was amazing. It had died for about maybe 6 months. Just after he had left, it was like, no more poodle jokes. The other day, I set the caravan up. We went into a house, and lo and behold, it was a picture of a poodle. It was like a cartoon. And it was just like everybody who had ever heard that word.
I loved it.
It was like it came back and they thought of me. It was amazing. But it has so many applications.
Every office has something like that.
I can imagine. I have just about, I love naming people.
Yeah.
tying people, like, if someone walks in, like we were at a grand opening party or a celebration of like Thursday party, and we all went, and I said, hey man, there's sure a lot of celebrities here tonight, you know, and they weren't, they just were celebrity lookalikes. And then this guy picked up on, because, you know, of the way I am. He said, yeah, I saw George Washington. So I go, where? And we're pointing these people out. Sure enough. So then I just walk up to people, and it takes me a while to, especially with women, to get close to them, or if I am introduced and all of a sudden we're all over each other and hugging and squeezing, but that's it, you know. So it's funny because, you know, it's like there's a lot of lookalikes that are out there, you know, trying to match, you know, if someone looks like George Burns, or someone looks, if a man looks like a female, or, you know, stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm constantly doing that. It's just something that happens.
Just fun.
Yeah, it is. Most of what we do
Good.
is that.
Everybody's out there laughing, it sounds real good.
Maybe next time.
I will, I hope.
I'm ready. ready, huh?
I'm ready, anytime.
Everybody got their coffee and made their call?
Or poodle jokes.
Okay, let's see if we can think of some new poodle jokes. Wow. So, did you match anybody while you were 5 minutes of matching him?
Actually, it was a rematch for the third time.
Too much.
Yeah, I met her, this girl that came in from ERA from Covina, I think. Her broker, I grew up with her, you know, on and off in East Los Angeles area. My aunt has a relationship with her. I guess she baptized her. This girl was there that I met again for the third time, who brought in flowers today from that area. She was in here, and I had seen her last week Thursday. But the first time I had met her was when my grandfather passed away. So.
Are you cold? Are you?
Smack her when she'll warm
I like my wife's always cold too. That's why we moved here from Utah. She couldn't stand the cold anymore. Let's get out of here. Of course, wrecking the car in the snow didn't help.
So you live here now?
black eyes.
Where do you live in California?
Walnut.
Walnut?
It's alright. We enjoy it. So are most of you from around here? Everybody from Los
Up the
Angeles
street.
area? Been here all your life?
Born here.
Born here?
Yeah.
Boy, not very
That's
many.
unusual.
Not in Whittier, but in Longview.
Yeah, I'm a native also.
Are you?
I've never been anywhere except to Vegas, and that's to gamble, and then Hawaii one time, and that's it.
We drove to Salt Lake because I was going to be there last week, and my daughter just had a baby, and her friend from high school wanted to go, so we took her. She was born in Korea, and she's only been here about 10 years. I guess. And, we were talking about the same thing. She doesn't know anybody that was born in California. Really? I know a few.
King County.
People move here from colder places.
You thinking of moving back?
Well, we thought about it. My wife would really like to. Now we have a grandson there. She's saying, see where your lectures from anywhere.
We're gonna have one good winter there, one heavy winter here.
Enough
She'll be right back.
Let it wreck the car again.
Well, that winter,
He's
that
got a
was the
whole
winter
new
we moved.
perspective on animals.
She wrecked a car,
He's gonna
and
look
both
at
of
it
my
totally
daughters
different.
wrecked cars that same winter.
You'll have to hire drivers for them.
In fact, one of my daughter wrecked two of my cars. She was backing one of my cars out of the driveway and hit.
Good.
I have a pickup truck that parked in the driveway. She hit.
How to get out of there fast now? Shut off.
They did more than one wreck cars.
Well, both of mine two that drive. My youngest doesn't drive yet,
That's
and I
hereditary.
told her
Because
maybe
mine-
in January I'll get it.
Mine both wrecked one car. It seems like every teenager has to do one.
No,
I
don't
didn't
say
wreck my
that.
dad's. I wrecked my own lots of times when I was in high school, but I never wrecked my dad's. Of course, he wouldn't let me drive it.
Smart guy.
One
Now
more.
my house.
Squeeze one more in, I think.